Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today, and welcome to today's webinar from our Build Your Career webinar series, How to Stop Wasting Time in Meetings by Elsa Velasco Paul, co-founder of the M&E Group. My name is Scott Levine, and I'm the membership manager here at the IEEE Computer Society. Each month, we host a webinar on vital business skills that will help you excel at your current job, be helpful at your next job, and throughout your career. Topics we'll cover include presentation and communication skills, emotional intelligence, finding mentors, job changes and and transitions, to name a few. Before we get started, I'd like to address some housekeeping items. This webinar is being recorded. You will receive an email tomorrow, which will include a set of the slides and the recording. You can ask any questions in the Q&A box you see on your screen. If possible, please reference the slide your question refers to. And please type your answers in as we go throughout. Also loves answering questions as we go through the presentation. And of course, she'll answer as many questions following the presentation. Understanding how to conduct efficient meetings is a skill that can lead to creating a productive work environment. In addition to today's webinar, the IEEE Computer Society has additional resources created to help boost other soft skills, build your network, and more. Our revamped Career Center provides all those tools you need to advance your career, such as employment prospects, resume assistance, and the latest career advice. Furthermore, with the IEEE Computer Society, you can connect with professionals from across the globe and build a network within our technical communities, local chapters, and conferences. More information will be shared after the webinar, but you can always learn more at computer.org. Circling back to today's topic, many people don't enjoy meetings. Many meetings are seen as a space for people to hear themselves talk, or worse, to discuss issues instead of identifying solutions. Every day there are more than 20 million meetings happening daily, and at least half of them are unsuccessful. For meeting attendees, the time spent in the conference room, being in person or virtual, equates to feeling unfulfilled, having more work assigned, and then having the task of trying to stay on top of everything else they are doing. In today's webinar, you'll learn how to enhance your meetings, creativity, accountability, collaboration, and efficiency, and keep all participants engaged. So before we get started, let me introduce today's speaker. As mentioned, we have Elsa Velasco Paul, the co-founder and creator of the M&E Group, a client success firm in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The M&E Group has served a wide range of industries, including consumer retail, oil and gas, industrial construction, nonprofit since 1997. Elsa consults, analyzes, and implements strategies that help business improve processes to increase client sales and revenue. In addition, Elsa travels as a consultant to many companies' locations, advising on accelerating and elevating to the next level. She trains corporations at their facility and/or virtually on many different subjects like today's topic, but also on persuasive communication, design thinking, branding, outside-the-box solutions, leadership, just to name a few. Elsa, thank you for being here today, and the floor is yours to get us started.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, everybody. And welcome aboard, friends. Just like Scott introduced me, I want to introduce you guys to Ed. And Ed is now a very successful person, but way, way back then, and I'm talking about 70s and 80s, he wasn't that successful. He went around a lot, and he went to school. When he went to college, he wanted to do a lot of cool, interesting things, but one of those was the film industry. When he tried to get there, he thought, well, I think I better go into something where I have a better chance of being successful. we're talking about Ed today because he went on to revolutionize the way that films are produced today and creative ideas are even created. He debunked the myth that talent and people are different. Even more important, and the reason why we're talking about Ed today is that him and his team went on to launch hit after hit, millions and millions of dollar hits. For example, Toy Story. And this consistent churn success that he did it was part because one of the phenomenal things that he did was he wrangled his organization's approach to meetings. We're going to talk about it in a little bit. He had this idea that meetings had to be not the way that they've always been. Today, we're joining Ed in a fantastic group of other innovators that most of you have heard through all my other webinars in that belief. And we are going to dispel the myth that meetings are, like Scott said, a huge waste of time. Because you know what? They don't have to be. We're going to do that by taking a nice tour through the purpose of meetings, the types of meetings, and we're going to dive into the steps to do so. And also, we're going to do that so that we get the best use of our time and meetings. Welcome home, my dear friends. Like Scott said, I am Elsa Velasco Paul, the co-founder of the M&A Group and part of the Seven Doors Project. Today, I am thrilled to be sharing my time with you. I always love it. And like Scott said, we're here thanks to one of my favorite partnerships. I love partnering with wonderful people, but by far the IEEE Computer Society is one of my top ones. You folks are outstanding to work with. So if anybody is wondering what's the value of me being with this professional society, this is one of those. We do have Michael Paul. He is the other side of the organization, and he is part of the success story. But today, what we want to unpack is a lot of cool things. Before we do that, we need to care of, I know, the part that is not so fun. And that is, you know it, the disclaimer. And this is the part with the comments about contact us if you need to share the contents of this presentation. We're always excited to partner in new projects. So if you need something or if you want to partner, call us because we are always ready. But enough about me. I want to know about you. And I want to know about who is in the room today. The reason why I want to know this is because this helps me tailor the presentation so that I do it according to who's in the room and according to your needs. So just remember, this live session is so that I can answer your questions and answer what is going on with your life. So that's why there's a benefit of being in the live presentation. Remember, you can send your questions during any time so that I can answer on the spot. Scott, is this a good time so that we can launch the poll? Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So what you are seeing right now, and feel free to click on it, is I want you to select where you are in your current stage in your career. So if you're a student, click A, or if you're a manager, go ahead and click that F. If you are retired, congratulations, great job. Then hit that H. Anybody who is in the group of graduate students, PhD candidates, keep going. You're almost there. Click that B. You got it. For anybody who is in other areas like that other category, I want to know what you are doing. That is always exciting. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit more time. We are at a phenomenal 40%. I want to make sure that everybody has enough time to do that. Perfect. Oh, this is really interesting. Great job, guys. Wonderful. Okay, Scott, is this a good time? Perfect. Wonderful. Okay, so we have a lot of folks that are in the supervisory levels. Excellent. If you don't mind, for that 20% that we have here in other, I would love to know, what are you doing? That is always exciting. To my students in graduates and entry level, great job. And thank you for the retired folks, because that means that you do not give up. on preparing yourselves. So great work, great work. All right, now let's talk about meetings, or what is the reason for having a meeting? Well, there is some data behind that. Research suggests that of the 23 hours approximate that executives or anybody who's in leadership that spends in a meeting each week, on average, 8 of these hours are unproductive. Some 90% of people report that they're daydreaming in meetings. Of course, that's none of you guys, I know that. And 73% admit that they're using this meeting time to do anything else but what they're supposed to be doing during these meetings. And yet, here's where it gets really interesting. Research by others shows that leaders like you and me consistently rate our own meetings as excellent or favorably, really good, and even much more positively than the attendees that we're inviting. So there's something off here. There was another telephone survey of more than, I think, 1,200 managers that found that approximately 78, 79% of them said that meetings they initiated were extremely or really productive. Only 56% of them said the same about meetings initiated by others. So that is a clear evidence of the quote unquote, I'm not the problem attitude, quote unquote. Additional research is going to provide insight into this why. And I think it was Peking University that did a study that found that the attendees that are most active are the ones that feel that the meetings are really productive and really useful. And you know who is talking the most? Yeah, the leader, the one who called the meeting. So why does this matter? Well, apart from the actual time wasted, it's estimated that more than 30 billion, that's billion with a B, is wasted in times alone in the US. And we know that the US is just a small portion of where meetings are being held. That's an opportunity cost of employees that they're not working on more important, inspiring, or revenue generating tasks. The key thing here that is missing is reduced engagement. People are not engaged at all. So what does that do? It diminishes everything. And I'm talking about performance, innovation, service, helping others, even teamwork that goes out the window. Even worse, there's something called, hear me out, meeting recovery syndrome. Yeah, meeting recovery syndrome is the effect of a bad meeting, and that lingers for hours. And it's the form of that attendee grousing, the complaining, that hallway effect that we feel hours after a horrible, horrible meeting. That's a single meeting. What happens when you have 3 or 4 meetings in a day that are not successful? You see where I'm going? However, let me turn it around. Meetings, when they're done right, they're well planned, purposeful, and appropriately at length, they're amazing tools for teams to share information, make decisions, and to build relationships. They can be used to brainstorm new ideas, to solve problems, to coordinate work. And if we're looking at this not all at once, because we have different types of meetings, the key word here is they should be predefined. It's important to make sure that every meeting has a specific agenda. And that's where it gets sticky, because that is the practice that not all of us have. And make sure that the people that need to be in the meeting are the ones invited, not more and not less. Meetings really, really have to be kept at a reasonable length. Please, please. And again, they need to be well organized. So apart from all these things, what do? Well, meetings, they solve problems, they coordinate work, they share information, they help to make decisions. But let's hone it down a little bit and talk about the type of meetings that we're designing our whole discussion around today. And before, or as a disclaimer, just remember, there's a ton of different classifications for meetings, right? Today, we are using this one, a simplified form that only talks about 3 types of meetings. Do you know what kind of meeting your meeting is? And that is probably the most important question that you need to do before you fire up that meeting invitation. Because understanding the difference between these 3 is going to help you save time and make your work and your group much more productive. This first one that we have, the development meeting, think of it like the status report meeting, and they happen daily or they can happen every couple of days, whatever you guys want to set up. But this one just gives an opportunity for people to check in to see what's happening, what's about to happen, what do they need, what's getting in your way. Think of it as a quick exchange of information between the team members so that everybody stays involved, engaged, and the project keeps moving. I think of them like implementation meetings, status. We want to be careful with development meetings to not get into any kind of discussions, which is the second type of meeting, because then that's when these meetings become really long and really confusing. If that happens, then what you want to do is you want to schedule offsite another type of discussion meeting. Let's talk about discussion meetings. Well, they're just that. They're not meant to create a decision. No, ma'am, that's not it. They're meant to bat ideas around. We're going to think and solve a problem, get more information, dive into something, a specific issue. Discussion meetings usually require a little bit more time than the first one. And you want to apply a little bit of structure so that everybody knows, first of all, what is the discussion about? What do you want to get out of the discussion? And what are these issues? So think about asking, or again, everybody gets in the room. Does anybody have any clarifying questions? In clarifying questions, you're going to think this is kind of simple, but it's very, very key. There are things that have to do with facts, dates, times, data. We're going to talk about consensus, and it's just basically, are we standing from the same basis? And then you can start to structure the discussion on yourself. A good thing that I like to do, especially when you have different levels of hierarchy within a room, within a meeting of this type, I love to have my junior members of the team speak first, and or have the folks that you know are normally shy or quiet speak first, because that allows them to have an opportunity to contribute even more, and it gives them a voice, it gives them presence before all of us type A's start to try to take over the meeting. The third type of meeting is one of my personal favorites. They're dreaming or ideation meetings. They're called innovation meetings or brainstorming meetings, and they just need to be structured carefully. You need, let's call it swimming lanes, because you need to structure the frame of reference, but then let people do as they need to do. There's nothing worse for a creative work than tell people, this is the agenda, now go be creative. It doesn't work like that. And when I'm talking about creative, this is not just for people that work in design. All of us are creative. It's how we think things differently. So this is where room and the space and even the instructions so that we work and know the scope is very, very important. Don't worry about it. I do have some studios at the end that are going to explain the difference between one or the other. So let's dive into how do we stop wasting? And we have 5 steps. Let's start with the first one. The first one is probably the most misused, and it is confirm, please, the need and the purpose of the meeting. A simple meeting calculation, and I'm going to tell you, of the cost of a meeting estimates that the average salary, you're going to take the average salary of the people that are in the meeting, and then you're going to make it an hourly number. Once you have that hourly number, let's say that it is $200, then you're going to multiply it by all of those that are attending that meeting. So, for example, if the hourly number is 200 and you have two people, that cost of that meeting is $400. All right. But if you have 20 people, you see where I'm going? So that helps you estimate if you need a lot of those C-suites in that meeting, or if you need to reduce them for when you have more decisions to be made or just a rubber stamp or something like that. I'm not saying that folks that have obviously lower wages are less important. This is just estimating where does everybody need to fall in. One time, we had this case probably a couple of years ago, we had a client of of ours that was complaining of cultural fit issues, saying that these cultural fits were resulting in reduced productivity. And it was true. We did the math and it was an issue. So we went over there for a week and we visited the client. And although I know cultural fit is always something that can be improved, the company was really drowning in redundant meetings. A lot of them were standing meetings that were just because. Standing meetings alone were costing this organization thousands of dollars a week. So the first thing is understand why are we meeting and ask the question, write it down. You should be able to answer it. Second question is, do we need to meet? That means, do we need to meet or can this be resolved differently? Can be this resolved via a phone, via email with less people? And although some meetings may feel disjointed and purposely, the reality is that they don't have to be. Good meetings are like this, like a good rowing team. Everybody knows their role, the beginning and the end, and the main objective. And then let everybody do what they do best. Simon Sinek, and you guys have heard me talk about him, he calls it the why. And Ed Catmull, the Disney Pixar wizard, calls it the reason. It's that 15 words answer that answers why this is not a call between you, me, and X, Y, and Z. Every person in the call, in the meeting, needs to have a purpose. And I'm saying maybe you need to have that subject matter expert, the SME, because we require their seal of approval because they are the people doing the work, for example. Or maybe you need at this stage to have somebody from the C-suite or the VPs so that they can agree that there's the funds or that it fits with the strategy. Right before you click that send, check again. Every person in the meeting invitation needs to be there. If that's a yes, go ahead. Remember, time is the most expensive asset of all. So use it wisely, my friends. Very, very wisely. The second one is, follows this one, be intentional. And I want you to use especially the template that we're going to talk about, the meeting template, so that you can resist what you guys know way, way better than anybody else, scope creep. Sometimes, particularly in those second ones, the scope creep, the discussion meetings, many branches are going to stem from that core subject. And several are going to be checked as keys to discuss. So for you to prevent those rabbit trails and topics that, they just seem to be exciting but have nothing to do with this, I want you to put those, if you have Teams, Microsoft Teams, you can put them in the chat, like sort of a parking lot, and ask the team closer to the end if this meeting needs to be extended with a subset of people or if there's a separate session that needs to be set. But don't assume that you can just extend it just because there's a lot of more topics to talk about. Maybe you don't need a full-on meeting, but maybe a stand-up with 3 participants. Whatever it is, just make sure that this small subset team knows that the rest still wants to know what happened. That is a little bit of follow-up that is very, very key. So why are we meeting? That's the first question that we need to find out. Go back to that meeting list and trim it down. Think about this. The average person like you and me spends 2,080 hours working approximately in a typical year. And it's estimated that 30 to 40% of that time we spend it in meetings. We're talking about 1,000 hours in meetings? Ooh, sweet mercy. That's a full month out of every year that we're spending in meetings. Oh, please, 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 please. Let's not do that. Let's do this smartly. How do we do that? Another way is my favorite, be respectful. You're going to say, well, Elsa, I am pretty respectful. I know that. But when I'm talking about redundancy or unnecessary complexity, we don't need that. We all know we're very smart. Make everybody feel very welcome and feel smart. So kick anything that is not necessary. The goal is we want to maximize the time that we have with the talent. So make sure that it makes sense. As we make the best use of people's time with some of these effective meetings, people are going to want to collaborate and to attend because you made this meeting something that makes a lot of sense. Another one, or number 4, is going to be creating what we call these purposeful collaboration spaces, especially now that we work with different generations and in different times. We want to make sure that we all understand and agree on what we call the baseline or consensus. I think that sometimes people think that consensus is we all agree 100% with what is going to be discussed at the end. That's not the point. No, 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 no. If that was the point, we wouldn't have a meeting. Consensus has to do with agreement on the initial statement, on what are we here to discuss. Do we all agree that we're here to discuss about project X needing to have a change? That's it. We're not discussing that the change has to be XYZ. Does that make sense? That's why creating these purposeful spaces we're talking about ambience, environment, the look and feel, is where we're going to consider the needs of everybody, including my favorite shy participants, allowing them to be heard, allowing them for the folks that think differently. So we have gadgets in the room so that they can use their hands, allowing for people that need to talk out things so that they can do that without feeling that they need to be shut down, allowing for my devil's advocates to feel heard and to be the ones that reason and say, what if this happens? We need to create that because otherwise we are missing out majorly. We want to create a space where opinions are allowed. If not, then why do you have all that talent in a room? That makes absolutely no sense. And a key component for that is an on-time culture. A key sign of any leader, and just remember, a leader is not somebody that has the title of a leader. A leader is a person that behaves like a leader, is to sponsor behaviors that makes us all better, right? And what is a better sign of a leader than to be punctual, to be on time? Because that respects everybody's time. The best way is always, no matter what, start on time. If you're the one hosting the meeting, start on time. Because what that's going to do is people are going to get used to that you're hosting a meeting, you start on time. A way that I like to do that is I like to prepare for the meeting and warm up the space. So I show up 5-10 minutes ideally so that people have a time to say good morning, get something to drink. But that is 5 or 10 minutes before, not 5 or 10 minutes into the meeting. And a good way for people to get used to the meetings is to use some of these off times, right? So for example, they can do 8:10 instead of 8, or they can set it up for 8:30 or 8:45. So make sure that you check everybody's schedules so that everybody can attend. Equally important is to keep a watch on time because you want to be able to respect everybody's time. If you need to have an additional meeting, close up serious discussions, go ahead, set those up. But hang on, unless you have agreement on having this extended meeting, do not do it because that's exactly what we said. We want to respect people. So let's get into the nitty gritty. How do we do this? How do we set a meeting? That's easy. We're going to start with consensus. And we know, right? Consensus is agreement. So the first thing that you get when you do a meeting or when you start with the agenda is figure out what are we all agreeing on. Do we agree that this meeting has to happen? Because you could find out that some people don't agree with that. Some people think this should be resolved with only 3 people, or some people just think that this should be a call and not physical. Do we all agree that that is a decision that needs to get made today? Is it premature? And while it may be sometimes silly that you think, does this need to be today? It is going to be perfectly obvious. It's going to be amazing how many of these assumptions are going to tripping up our meetings. So challenge yourself every single time to ask these obvious questions. Additionally, one thing that I love to do is ask and clarify the attendee roles that we are doing. That means we all know what we do for work, right? But what I'm saying is clarify, I'm Elsa, and today I am here as the chief solutionist. So that is my role. I am not in charge of CX. I am not in charge of quality. today for this meeting, I am as a solutionist. That helps us separate ourselves from our person and our relationships and allows us to speak as a person in our role. Allow for these collaborations in fill in agenda items. You don't have to create the whole agenda by yourself. You can ask other people to co-host with you because that gives a lot of ownership. And no matter what, every single point that is said in the meeting that requires an action item, write it down and do it live. Again, if you have Teams or Google or something else, make sure that everybody sees what you're typing so that it's like, almost like an agreement. Stick to the allotted time, and right after you finish that meeting, go ahead and share those notes. Ideally, you want to do that in less than 24 hours because a benefit of that, it's fresh in people's mind. They remember what the discussion was. And if there's any edits, they know what the discussion is all about. So let's talk about you guys. I have a couple of questions. Number one, how many meetings did you folks call or set up this past week? And I'm talking about, let's take from last Thursday up to today. So as soon as you can, go ahead and click here if you did 3 meetings, or if you set up 4 to 7 meetings, if you did 8 to 10 meetings, or if you went more than 11. Then click the according one, and then let's see our results. Okay, very interesting. All right. Great job. Okay. Perfect. Perfect. Good job, guys. Excellent. Excellent. Okay. Let's go to the next one. Let's see the next one. And this next one is in the same vein. Oops, sorry. How many meetings did you attend? So these are the ones that you did not have a choice. They set it up. They saw your calendar empty and they said, oh, she needs to be in this meeting. He is essential for this meeting. So the same thing. Were you in 3 meetings? Were you in 4 to 7 meetings? Were you in 8 to 10? Or were you more than 11? Go ahead and click the best option that fits where you were in meetings this past week. Oh, wow. Oh, goodness me. All right. Okay. Good job, folks. Perfect. Okay, I have another question for you. Here we go. The third question is, let's talk about what percent of these meetings, either the ones that you set or the ones that you attended, were really necessary. So either the ones that you attended or the ones that you set up, 100% of them were necessary, Elsa. They were life-saving meetings. So you're going to click C. Or you're going to say, maybe 50% of them. Let's do B. Or if you're thinking like, seriously, I had 6 meetings last week and I can't tell you why I was there. Then you're going to do A. Oh, pretty good. Okay. Good job, guys. Perfect. All right. All right. Do you guys want to see the results? Let's see. Let's see where we stand. All right. Let's see for the first one. Here we go. So the first ones, how many meetings did you folks set up? You guys are busy bees. So apparently some of you, well, we set up a couple more meetings than we want to. We're very busy. We have 11 or more. That's 12% of you. So you guys, 24%, 47, and great job. 0 to 3, 64%. Applause all around. Well, how about the meetings that they set up for us? How does that change? Good, good. So not a lot of meetings, 0 to 3, half of you folks. And then we start to compete a little bit from 4 to 7 and all the way to 11. Let's see how important or how necessary should I have been in those 50%. Goodness. So probably some of those meetings I really didn't need to, but maybe I didn't have the option to decline. That happens a lot, doesn't it? Good point. Good point. Do this exercise commonly a lot of times so that you have the chance to maybe excuse yourself for some of those meetings if you have the opportunity. Great job, guys. Thank you. Thank you so much for participating. All right, let's talk about who is in charge of setting all these meetings. There is a person. There is a person that does this, or there should be, and that is called the meeting manager. Yes, there is such a person. The meeting manager is the person that calls the meeting, right? And that is a person that fires up the invitation. Technically, that person should take notes, share the agenda, share the support materials beforehand, not during. Check the tech or the room prep. The meeting manager can take care or delegate timekeeping, the time check, the tech, delegate most of these tasks. The only one that we don't is making sure that the action items. And the reason why we do this is because the meeting manager has a very comprehension of all the topics and allows them to weave the comments made during the meeting. Having this person be responsible for notes taking also curtails the urges of people just having to jump to set useless meetings because now they know I have to take notes. See my point? So I want to share with you a couple of good examples of a good meeting agenda template. Whatever format you're going to use, it's fine. I just want to show you some that I really like and the reason why I like it. Okay? And remember, the agenda item is key. Very, very important. These two, they're different models. You can use whatever you like. What I love about having a good agenda is that it sets the tone and it sets the rules. There's nothing worse than people not knowing where the meeting is going to be, the link, or asking 5 minutes before the meeting if the time is right, if it's online, if it's live. That is awful. Knowing that the attendees are understanding who needs to be there and why they need to be there is key because that allows people to participate in a purposeful manner. They do their homework and they come prepared. They're not going to be solutioning there. So taking these action items, which you're going to see down below, is phenomenal because this is what we were talking about. Everybody gets to see what we're discussing, who's going to be responsible, and at the end of the session, you can share it with everybody. Whatever it is that you're sharing, it can be a little bit more block, colorful like this one, or it can be in a different format. Just make sure that this is an agreement of sorts. Okay? Now, let's talk about the other options that we have. And this one is rethinking the standard. Not all of these meetings need to have a PowerPoint. I really don't see the point in that. If you can, read the information off the side. I love, for example, if you are talking about some data, go straight to the graphics, go straight to the Excel sheet. Use some apps like Whiteboard where people can collaborate with you. Use whatever graphics that you need to do so. Use paper if it's a live meeting. Put paper out there so that people can use pen and paper and crayons, colors, markers, whatever you want. Sometimes meetings don't have to be a meeting. Sometimes a meeting can just be a call between two people that make some discussions and then they fire up to the rest of the team. If you are doing a physical meeting, remember that some of us, we are very physical. So put something on the table so that people can use their hands while the meeting is going on. And one of my favorites, if you want to get those creative juices going, use stand up or walking meetings. You're going to be surprised. All you have to do is just go for a quick walk because that way your mind and your body is busy with something else and it does help you focus more on what you want to do. Let's talk about some of these examples. This is one of my favorites here. Oh, Scott, can you do the video?
It's fine.
Oh, okay. Hang on.
You want the stand-up one though, right?
Yes, yes. So for the first one, what we want to talk about is just remember, just eliminate that whole cheesy factor that you're seeing at the end. I know that one. Okay, come on, I know that. But what I really love about these circle stand-ups is they are going to last very short, 15, 20 minutes. So the topic is going to be very, very reduced, and you can divide really big items into smaller items. Circle stand-up meetings eliminate that hierarchical feeling, but they create a lot of open communication between groups that would really feel awkward talking if they had tables in front of them. It's going to speed up the flow of the meeting, and it's going to help you, meeting manager, stay a little bit more in control. The con on the other side is that for some folks, standing up for a long period of time is a no-go, and writing notes, it is going to be a challenge. Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's look at the second one. And the second one is going to be the U-type meeting. There you go. Thank you, Scott. So this one, the U-type meeting is, depending on the type of meeting, I would pick something different than this one from a brainstorming session. You see the distance that you have is created what we call some of those zoning out spaces. And I'm talking about my girlfriend over there in the corner, white shirt. I see you zoning out. So some people can do that. However, if you're presenting findings or introducing a program that people are going to see many, many times, this setting is fantastic. It gives a lot of control for the presenter. And in a crowd where everybody knows everybody, it's really good because you can request folks to participate by calling out their opinion. So the whole point is to be intentional about the setting that you're using. Let's talk about the third one, which is the long table meeting setup. And the long table setup is perfect to keep control of the meeting because you're going to have visibility of everybody that is participating. And it's also allowing you to have a clear view of everybody who's in the session if you're the presenter. However, what you're going to see here is that it creates this hierarchical sense here of who is either at the top of the table or the folks that are in the middle get to talk to each other. Think of those movies that you have the FBI or the Pentagon or whatever going on. Yeah, so it's really stiff in that session. Even worse, if you have people sitting on the outskirts of the table, it really creates a sense that those voices are secondary. I would stay away if possible for these type of settings if you have an ideation type of meeting, because we do have another format. And this format is the square or the circular. Let's look at that one right now. The square or the triangle or whatever odd shaped is going to be great because it allows for everybody to have access to the information. These are like the solutioning types of settings. I love them. It's very free, it's very creative looking, and it really helps people to access information in a much more free form. Access and for you to stay focused and to keep control of the meeting, it might be a challenge. So just be aware of that. All right? Great job. Great job. Thank you, folks. So let's talk about what if you're the person that's invited? Even better, because then you get to lead by example. Every meeting that you're invited to, know that you have to show your value. You should not be a wallflower. So either comment and make sure that it's a value, not just repeating what somebody else said, supporting somebody or engaging as one of the meeting agenda participants, and make sure that you are prepared. And of course, be on time. Absolutely. Absolutely. It is essential that we are on time. Well, look at that. We got to the point of the key takeaways. Some of the things that I think we learned is meetings really are great because they combine talent and time to create something amazing, something that otherwise would not have happened. And that is the creative solution. I love that when we tie in the right type of meeting with the right type of setting, aka the room and the table, it really helps people just work much better. And the key here is simplicity. Simplicity with good content and have that purpose. With that being said, I want us to be very careful about what we call agenda complacency, which is just a big, big word for us thinking that the agenda is going to drive everything. The agenda is a tool. We are the ones that have to do the work and stay engaged in it. I want to go back a little bit to Ed. Remember Ed, who I was talking about? Well, Ed Catmull, I think I'm not butchering his name, the president of Walt Disney and Pixar Animation Studios, is one of you guys. Yes, he is. If I'm not wrong, he is an IEEE Computer Society 2008 awardee. So great job, guys. Yay! And he's phenomenal. He wrote a book called Creative Inc. And there's an article there that he talks about getting newer team members to speak. I think he said that the bigger issue for us has been getting young new hires to have the confidence to speak up. To try to remedy this, I make it a practice to speak at the orientation sessions for new hires, where I talk about the mistakes we've made and the lessons we've learned. My intent is to persuade them that we haven't gotten it all figured out and that we want everyone to question why we're doing something that doesn't seem to make sense to them. We do not want people to assume that because we are successful, everything we do is right. How about that? The king of Walt Disney and Pixar Animation Studios is saying that the newer hires are the ones that give him a perspective check. You know, the best way to prevent wasting time at meetings is to ask the right questions and to prepare, to be intentional in keeping people's interest in mind, and to use the tools that you learned here. And of course, keep discipline. That's going to keep you well on track. With that being said, happy meetings, my friends. Happy meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Elsa. That was excellent. I know I was taking some notes of things of how I guess I could improve meetings I attend or sometimes hold. I don't see any questions in at the moment yet. So if you have a question for Elsa, please remember you can shoot it over using the Q&A box you see on your screen. I'll get us started, Elsa. If you're sort of lower down in the totem pole and you see some of the areas where their company can improve on, how would a person who's again lower down the totem pole like convince someone higher up to start using some of these tips and tricks to make their time more efficient? Is there a good way where they could approach someone who's more of like a senior manager or director or something like that?
I think data, data speaks tons, so that's why you can use that book as a reference. Creative Inc. Has the best ways. His practices are phenomenal. Ed Catmull's approach to how he designed his meetings is short of genius. So approaching your boss and saying, this is the man that reinvented, pretty much animation. And this is the way that he's doing his meetings. Maybe this is something that we want to see. And then the second thing is the numbers are real. By us having meetings that make no sense, we are pushing dollars down the drain. I think that really helps. And when people see that we do the first meeting with structure, with a good agenda, people really like it. They feel there's a pep in the meeting and it feels purposeful. Human beings want to be purposeful. We want to have a sense that things that we do matter. So do the first one, do it successfully, and it will catch on. Great question, Scott.
Thank you. We have one came in. First, they said, thank you, Elsa, excellent presentation. Could you please circle back to the 4 different types of meetings?
Yes, absolutely. And, we did say there's a ton of different classifications, right? The ones that we're using is, we talk about development meetings, which is, we call them the standing meetings. Those are the implementation, the follow-up meetings that probably most of us have every week. You can call those the ones that you have on your schedule from here until kingdom come, okay? So those are the dangerous ones, because there's a tendency that we just schedule them in because. And that is where you can hone in and say, do I really need to be here? Does everybody need to be here? And does this still need to be happening with the same purpose? So those are the ones that technically they should really be short if they're happening with that much frequency. If it's a lot of frequency, it should be less time happening every time. So a standing or a development meeting weekly that is an hour long makes absolutely no sense. You either have too many topics in it, or you are just doing it just because. So it should be shorter. Then the second one that we were talking about, let me see if I can take us over there. There we go. So the second one that we were talking about is different from the development discussion ones. The discussion ones are when we do not want to have a shorter time, we just want to go on and bat things around. We want to discuss a big idea. So you want to really let people say, this is the topic, this is what we have to do. We need to make a decision on this. They can be the hour and a half meeting, for example. But if that's the case, chunk it, give 45 minutes, give it a break, then come back for that discussion. The ideation is, think of it as the creative meeting, right? Where you tell people, this is the beginning, this is the objective, go for it. And then you let people just, figure out how they want to do it. The difference between the discussion and the ideation is that the discussion people know and they have it half cooked, whereas the ideation is completely different. You are pretty much telling them, this is a blank canvas, go for it. I hope that helped.
No, I think it does. Next question is from Miguel. He asks, what can you do if you have an attendee that is boycotting the meeting?
Ooh. Usually when people boycott is because they feel uncomfortable or they feel unheard. So I would just ask after the meeting, figure out what's going on. And once you figure it out, you know what's the best tool? Give them something to do for the next meeting. Make them an owner. Make them a co-presenter with you, or have something that they are responsible for. That is going to make sure that that person is not going to boycott your meeting again.
I think that's a great tip. I think that's all of them. So Elsa, with that, I think we'll wrap up. Thank you again for your presentation. Thank you everyone for joining us and participating with the polls and all the great questions you submitted. Just a quick programming note, we do have 3 webinars coming up over the next few weeks. The first 2 are from our Standards Activities Board series. The first one is 5 days from now, titled You Don't Say, Standardizing Inclusive Language. This is from one of the new IEEE standards on making the language more inclusive for all. The next one, again from the same Standards Activities Board series, is on May 4th. It's from the very popular IEEE standard 802.3, and it'll be the journey from 800 gigabit Ethernet and the journey to 800 gigabit and 1.6 terabit Ethernet speeds. And our last webinar, or the next one after that, is from this series, the Build Your Career webinar series. That will be on May 18th, and that will focus on applying emotional intelligence daily. So again, thank you, Elsa. Oh, before I forget, you'll receive a link to register for all those webinars in your email tomorrow when you get a copy of the slides and the recording. So again, I would just like to thank Elsa for sharing her great insight, and I want to thank all of you for attending and participating again today. So thank you all. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.